Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lizelle Senekal, and I'm from the Division for Research Development. And by way of this information session, I hope that I will make your life easier in terms of finding funding, specifically for in the Horizon Europe program. So there's much to say, but just to put myself in context as to the DRD, I'm now part of a restructured office, which is now called the Grants Office for all funding opportunities at our division. And this now includes the institutional, national, so NRF, and all international funding opportunities. Right, so I'd like to take you through the program now. Just to mention to you, this is day one, and day two tomorrow builds actually on day one. So I'll provide you now with a scope of what Horizon Europe is all about. I'll take you to a couple of calls, very specific calls for EU Africa and other information. And then in tomorrow's session, I'll take you through the very basics of how to approach a Horizon Europe proposal, how to deal with the nitty-gritty, so we really get stuck into the templates and more detailed information. So today is broader and tomorrow will be more specified. Right, so over to what this is all about. So for those of you who do not know Horizon Europe, it's the world's largest research and innovation program, budgeting 95.5 billion euro over the next 6 years, because it covers 2021 to 2027. And as you can see in rands, it's a lot of money. Now, to process and to manage all of this funding takes doing, and I'm going to show you how to do it, how to find those very specific topics that you're looking at and that you want, and how to go about understanding the background. So we'll start from a more global perspective, just to put Horizon Europe in context so that we know where we stand as South Africans. And then I'll move over to the international cooperation function, which I think is quite important, obviously, for us. This is how we connect with Horizon Europe and the global perspective. And then I'll take you through to the funding structure, which is obviously the heart of what this is all about. This is the crux of the funding. And then from there, I will show you specific and certain calls. I can't show you all of them because there are hundreds of calls at any given time, but more about that later. So let's move on and see what this is all about. So the EU's vision is obviously, we always say think funder. So this is an EU structured program. Obviously, the focus will be on the EU. However, it's to our advantage to know that the focus is on climate change, obviously on the Sustainable Development Goals, obviously on Europe. So the good thing about this is the EU is also very much focused on international collaboration. That's huge, and this is what they want. They want the world to collaborate, to network, to work together, and this is where we come in. So just to give this to you in a gist, this is the budget, the full budget for the full years. As you can see, somebody is struggling. No? Not sure? Whitney, can you take care, please, of somebody who's struggling with...
Ik kan voortgaan. Je kan voortgaan.
Okay. So it's all about the budget here, and just to indicate to you that you have some kind of idea as to where the bulk of the funding actually lies, and you'll see it's here. Now, what is this? This is what we call a specific component of the funding structure, which is called Pillar 2. I'll take you through that just now. And this is also the thematic areas that the EU wants to put their money out to, so that we must actually, according to a very prescriptive kind of call that they put out, adhere to. But this is where the bulk of the money lies, as you can see. The next big portion of the money would go to excellent science, and this would be Pillar 1. don't worry about the pillars and the acronyms and the wordings now. I'll take you through everything, and by the end of the session, you'll really understand what this is about. This is merely just to show you that there's a lot of funding available and input-output. I mean, obviously that means that there's a lot of work to do. Firstly, to find the right call. Secondly, to apply, and eventually to do the implementation and the call. There are two keywords that the EU and Horizon Europe uses all the time, and you'll see this in my presentation too. It's all about impact. Impact and excellence. So how do we take the excellent science to society? All the focus is on the impact in many different ways. So you will see this through and through, and I'll take you through it. But this is just to indicate to you that these two words are really the essence of what Horizon Europe funding is all about. Okay, just to demonstrate here so that you see that they actually mean impact and how important it is. During the first 7 days after the first EU COVID case was reported, the EU put out 48 million euro specifically for COVID. So that's putting the money where the mouth is, I think. Another way of showing how they want to effect impact is to see that countries collaborate. Now, there you can see we've got 150 countries. And again, this is where we come in. It's all about collaboration, all about networking, working together. The EU's got a very big focus on climate change. At this stage, it was 30%. In the meantime, it was increased to 35% of all the budget programs will be focused on climate change. So that's also good to know, and also relates to how important impact is to the European Commission. So this is really the heart of what Horizon Europe is all about. Now, for this slide, don't try and read all the fine print. I'm going to take you through everything. This is really just to provide you the overview of what the funding structure for the next 7 years is all about. So what the European Union did was to put out the 95 billion. They decided that they're going to put it out in 3 pillars. So there's pillar 1, there's pillar 2, there's pillar 3, and then 2 horizontal pillars. So pillar 1 aims at basic science, excellent science. Pillar 2 obviously also aims at basic science, but now already here we're moving to the market. So there's a bit of implementation and innovation. And then in terms of pillar 3, these are really the projects that are going to market, that are ready for market. So in the horizontal pillar, and widening participation again indicates collaboration, and there are specific programs that I'll revert to later to indicate to you how we can become involved. But in a just keep this in mind, because there will be a couple of slides that will follow on this one, just for you to have the framework of what pillar 1, 2, 3 is about, and also then the 2 horizontal pillars. Okay, so there's a new thing now. With Horizon 2020, those of you who knew that program wouldn't have known about EU missions. This is a new broad-term impact structure that the EU wants. So this is not a single set of actions. It's actually quite a number of actions put together to achieve bold and inspirational and measurable goals within a very specific time frame. And this is how the EU wants to focus on a broader perspective on impact. Now for this, they put out 5 very specific mission areas, and this is what they are all about. So very much green economy context, as you can see, and obviously also health. So there's climate change, cancer, healthy oceans, climate neutral and smart cities, and soil and health and food. So as you can see, huge focus on the green economy, and that is also why the funding is so much more for pillar 2 that I've just referred to, because most of them relate to these missions as well. So remember, this is now a broad perspective, policy level, broad destinations for impact that they would like to focus on. But we're going to funnel these down now. So this is the broader part, and then we're coming down to the nitty-gritty of the actual call. So just for you to know where the missions actually focus on, this is good for us because these are also the pillars that we can participate in. So the biggest focus will be, as I mentioned, on pillar 2. There we have the 6 clusters, so the thematic areas. Also on pillar 1 with the excellent science, where we have the European Research Council funding, we have the Marie Curie funding and research infrastructure, and also the widening and participation spreading excellence functions. So this is important because here are the programs that will be nationally funded. In our case, by the DSI. These include cost actions, twinning, several other programs, but good for us to know that where we can actually participate, this is also where the focus of the EU missions will focus on exactly these pillars where we can really zoom into and participate. Right, as I mentioned before, international collaboration is key to the EU. So they would do anything not only to support the EU countries, which are all called first countries, and associate countries are called second countries, and all other non-EU countries are called third countries. This includes Mexico, Canada, Russia, other countries, Australia, that are not part of the EU, and so are we also a third country. So this doesn't mean third world country, it means a third country, meaning not being part of the EU. However, that said, they really want to focus on the third countries with good capacity in science, technology, and innovation. Now, the nice thing about that is they have intensified targeted actions. That means calls that they've specifically put out for collaboration with either African partners or specifically with South Africa. And that is very good for us to know. So in essence, yes, indeed, it is an EU funded structure, but they want the world to work together. And now there's a new drive to also focus in on Africa. So in terms of collaboration, there will be specific actions or then calls that are flagged as being specifically relevant for international collaboration. And that's what we should look out for when we look at the calls. If they mention that, it means that we are the ones that must really zoom into those specific calls because it's basically got our names on it. So it's very, very good for us. In addition to that, is the cooperation with Africa under the New Horizon Europe African Initiative. So this is also something that I will zoom into later. These 37 calls that I want to show you, just that you know what it's about. So take note of that concept. I will talk about that again. It's good for us to know. The very good thing and the advantage that we have in South Africa is that we are the only sub-Saharan African country with an MOU signed, formal cooperation agreement signed between us and the EU. Now, bear in mind, we have that. We're the only country with an MOU at this stage. The focus and the new drive on Africa is huge. So if all these calls appear now are being published for Africa, I think the zooming is very much, the focus is very much on us in Africa. And this is just for you to alert you to it and not to think that, oh, we're far away, we can't really collaborate. It's not the case at all. In fact, this is now the time for South Africa to participate in EU funding. In terms of the EU Green Deal, it's a huge thing, huge funding focus area. This is from their website where they say Southern Africa is one of the 10 climate hotspots, making South Africa particularly vulnerable to climate change. The country is also one of 17 mega biodiverse countries in the world. So they actually acknowledge the fact that we have lots of infrastructure. We've got the biodiversity, we've got the health issues. We have so many things that we can offer from the perspective of South Africa in order for the Europeans to make use of, to deal with, to learn from us. So the collaboration is there and it's rife. It's just for us to venture into this and to start participating. Okay, back to the structure. As I said, you'll see it a couple of times. This is now just to alert you to the fact that we can obviously now participate there, participate here, and participate in Pillar 2. So this is important for us to know. There is one small program in Pillar 3, one specific program, I will refer to that a bit later, that we may participate in, and it's called the Pathfinder in the European Innovation Fund, but a bit more about that later. So from here on, I thought it was good just to notice where our university's vision actually fits in to the 5 mission areas of the EU. So if you look at the vision for our university for 2040, there are so many key words that the EU actually also focuses on. So Africa is a new drive, research intensive, globally, excellent, inclusive and innovative, advanced knowledge in service of society, that is impact, hugely so. So in terms of the 5 strategic research areas at our university, the natural environment speaks to almost most of those. So does public health for cancer, and then obviously also systems and technologies for the future appear in other calls in the funding structure. So I think the synergy is there, and I think it's good for us to know that our vision corresponds to the missions and the specific areas of impact that the EU has actually put out. So just a bit of perspective in terms of our university. So let's go over to the detail now. That's a bit of background of what Horizon Europe is all about. Here we will now zoom into specifically the pillars. Now remember, the first pillar was excellent science. Under excellent science, we have 3 funding structures. First is the European Research Council, then the Marie Curie Actions, and then research infrastructures. So the ERC puts out fantastic opportunities. The only thing with the ERC grants is in most cases you have to study half of the time of the 5 years you need to be in Europe. But there are also other opportunities that are really very good, and more about the details later. At our university, we do very well in terms of the Marie Curie Actions. This is just to show you the funding structure that's available for Pillar 1. Pillar 2 focuses on the 6 clusters, and these are the areas that I referred to earlier on as the thematic areas. And as you can see, 53 billion of the 95 billion is focused in these areas specifically. So this is where the focus lies. I will also tell you more about the funding structures and how they differ to, for instance, the first pillar. For Pillar 2, you can see the main focus points are on the digital industry and space, climate, energy and mobility. So here is our focus area, although there's almost 9 billion for food, bioeconomic, national research sources. Health obviously is also very big. So there's lots of funding. This is just to show you where the focus areas from their perspective lie, just to provide you with that input. And this is Pillar 3. And as I mentioned earlier on, this is not really part of the bigger structure. We may participate here in one specific Pathfinder opportunity, but just to show you that once again, there is lots of money allocated to Pillar 3. Innovation Council, the one I just referred to, this is where South Africans may participate in. They're not sure at this stage yet to what extent we might be able to participate in the others, since it's very strongly focused on the EU. But for now, we may focus on the Pathfinder. This is usually with a TRL of about 1 to 3. Okay, so this is now the horizontal pillar that I referred to earlier on. As you can see there, cost actions. I think some of you are familiar to cost actions. I will alert to that again towards the end. They've got teaming and twinning and ERA chairs and many other co-funding opportunities, joint programs, EU, South African joint programs, also covered like the ERANETs and many other funding opportunities, all managed by the Department of Science and Innovation. And towards this pillar, although we don't usually, get involved here, you can see international collaboration, science communication is a huge thing now with the EU in terms of bringing the science out to the community. In other words, being the tool to actually effect impact. So again, this is the structure. I keep bringing it to your attention because I have to refer to it all the time. So just that you know, this, and these are the three ones that we can look at. So for pillar 1, excellent science. This is over to the funding structure now. So for excellent science, there are fixed amounts. The ERC grants, the MSCA grants, research infrastructure grants, and these are also bottom-up grants. Now, what does that mean? So if it's a bottom-up grant fund structure, it means that the proposer can come with an idea, a bold idea, their own idea. So it's not prescribed by the EU. For pillar 2, it's different. So there we have top-down structured calls, which means that the EU very prescriptively puts out specific calls, and then they want those calls to adhere exactly to the structure that they want. So this is where some people think that it becomes very complicated, but it's actually not, because it's so structured that they actually explain in so much detail what they require that you know exactly what to do. All you need to do is sit down for a couple of hours and read what they want. And from there on, it's actually fairly easy. So you can see the funding structure there is 100% plus 25% overheads, which is obviously good for our university. And the three main funding types are the RIAs, Research Innovation Action, the IAs, Innovation Action, and the CSAs. So let's go over and show you a bit more about those. So here, forget about the background for now. By now you know what it's all about. This is really just to show you where these funding types or actions fit in. So in the middle pillar, you'll see that RIAs, IAs, and CSAs can apply here. So if you would go to the call structure, the big work program that we'll refer to later, you must be looking out for whether it's a RIA, an IA, or a CAA to understand what the actual call is about and what you're applying for, because they have different eligibility criteria, they have different impacts, different missions, goals, and so forth. But it's very clearly spelled out. So I mean, you can't go wrong if you sit and really work through that. So with a widening participation in the widening horizontal pillar, also CSAs, coordination and support actions, these are very nice. They combine research with networking. So for a CSA, you need, in some instances, a minimum of 1 EU country, but for these guys, yeah, you need at least 3 EU countries. It all differs from call to call. You still have to read the guidelines, you still have to scrutinize the topics, but this is just a general remark so that you know RIAs and IAs are very well structured, and I'll take you through the templates as well. I referred to the Pathfinder earlier, so that's where you'll find that. Over to pillar 1, which is also a bottom up. And here the ERC has a couple of funding structures called the starting grant, the consolidator grant, the advanced grant, and the synergy grant. Very, very well funded programs, very prestigious in the EU. It takes hard work to put in your proposal, but once you have received an ERC, you're well away, apparently, according to the Europeans. So, in terms of the Marie Curie actions, we've got doctoral networks, we've got co-funds, we've got staff exchanges. For those of you who maybe had RISE projects in the previous Horizon 2020, this is now called staff exchanges. And then we've got postdoctoral fellows. So this is more or less the main types of actions applicable to this bigger picture. So now let's move on to this new drive, the EU drive, the EU Africa Innovation Agenda. This is basically a drive that takes us through many different initiatives on how to connect with Africa. This is between EU, obviously, and Africa. So the first very big initiative is the one with the 350 million rand that was put out in the work program. They are usually biannual, so they appear every second year, with 37 calls to an amount of 350 million, and really zooming in to Africa. So I will take you through a couple of these calls so that you could see what it's all about, how good it is for us to participate in and why. There are also EU-African partnerships established. So the first one, the NFSSA, is about food, nutrition and security. The CCSE is about climate change, EDCTP about clinical trials, LEAP about energy, renewable energy, and there are many more. There's even more EU-Africa synergies. We've got Erasmus Plus, capacity development and mobility. And at our university, we're doing a very good job. Alicia Erasmus is on board here, and this is a very, very successful program at our university. Really something to pursue with an even bigger focus from now on. So bear that in mind too. Then there are other synergies like the Global Europe. These are all development funds like the ACP funds, all development funds to try and build dialogue. Some of them have loans, different ways on how to support research and innovation in Africa. So here are the examples that I just mentioned. So in public health, we've got EDCTP. In the green transition, we've got the FNSSA, and we've got the CCSE. In addition to that, we've got the ACP, which is African Caribbean Pacific Innovation Fund. And as I mentioned, the Neighborhood Fund and the Erasmus Plus Fund. So all different initiatives put together to try and really drive this new initiative that the EU has. Okay, so now I'm going to take you to the African Initiative 37 calls that were put out for 2021 to 2022. I'll take you through them, make you aware of them. These are really just names. If you're really interested, you can contact me and we can delve further and I will help you find the call, or you can search it yourself if you want to. But I'm going to take you through these 37 calls just to show you what is available and how they actually want to drive this initiative in terms of these very specific calls for Africa. So for public health, just for you to understand, I kept the 2021 there because it's good for you to take note of the type of call, because it might appear again in the next biannual. So we don't know, but it's always good to take note of what is there, even though the expiry date has already been 2021. Here they indicate how much million euro they have available for that specific call. So when we delve deeper into these types of funding calls, we will see that they would, for instance, say for the 40 calls, they will allow 6 programs or projects, or maybe 4 or maybe more, whatever the case may be. So this is just an indication as to the total project costs for however many people apply to that specific call. For those of you interested in EDCTP, we now know that the new calls will be launched in 2022, which is this year, and we're looking forward to seeing that because we are doing very well at the university with EDCTP funding structures. The green transition has 21 calls, so I'll just scroll through them. I'm not going to go through the detail. You'll see, as I said, some of them are still 2021, but there are new ones. So for you to take note of. I did indicate whether they're RIAs or IAs. Take note of that. We won't go through each and every one due to time constraint, but you will receive the slides, so you will have the information available and you can contact me anytime. Again, for green transition, this is more transport, food nutrition, African food cities, quite a number of calls still for 2022. Here we have biodiversity, ecosystems related calls, quite a number of them too. And then under innovation and technology, There's also some calls put out specifically for this drive. And note here that we have 2 CSAs, which is, as I mentioned earlier on, it's the coordination support action. So that's for networking and a bit of research. It's a combination of both. It's not straight research projects only. And then capacities for science, 11 calls. There you can scroll through them and see what's interesting to you and if there is anything. And again, the budget's indicated for the overall calls for those topics. Right, now, how to find more EU calls? I've now just shown you 37 calls because it's now the specific drive, this African drive. However, all the applicable calls will be found in the Horizon Europe work programs. And there we have 13 different work programs. Now, this is important for you to know because you will have to sit back, have a look at the overall work program and then decide which one you want to focus on. Over a bit more about that just now on the next slide, but more ways obviously to find funding is to go to the specific website, very available with lots of information. It provides you with so much details. There's even a FAQ section that provides you with so many extra details. And as I said earlier on, just about every single thing that you need to know is on the portal. So have a look, read, sit back, go through the documents and spend some time to really understand what it is that you're looking for. Another way to look for funding is obviously just to do a very good Google search and then ensure when you do your Google search that you choose the EU funding and tenders portal. So that will also take you directly to the EU funding site. And then probably the most positive way to look for funding is to talk to your collaborators, talk to your existing networks, speak to the people you know, collaborate with those, ask them about funding opportunities. If they're in Europe, they would know about funding opportunities applicable to your area of expertise. So that's all about collaboration, finding the call, finding the people, putting the consortium together. Another way is to find calls here at our office, which is the Division for Research Development, is to subscribe to our listserv database. So we send out calls regularly for you to have the option to look for applicable calls. We also manage Open for Research, which is an online database with more than 11,000 funding opportunities. This I will also present every other month just to keep you updated with that. It's a wonderful opportunity to find more funding. And then obviously there's our Research Grants Office. I mean, we are quite a number of people there who can assist you in terms of, as I said, national, international, and institutional funding opportunities. So the list is endless. Just back quickly to the work program so that you know if you open up the work programs now, what it is that you have to do with this. And I'm talking rather bulky documents that we're looking at. So the 13 parts are as follows. You've got the main introduction. Please read it. It's important. It explains why the EU puts out 95 billion, what's behind it, the strategies, where the logic and the policies comes from. It's important for you to know. Then there's the 11 parts that I referred to earlier on, and those cover pillar 1, 2, and 3, which we've now been over and over with, and also the widening participation. A bit more on that in the next slide. And then there's the general annexes, which is the eligibility and the award criteria. Also very good information for you to know in terms of how to apply. So just a quick one here. If you do go to those 11 parts that I've just mentioned, you will find them under the Marie Curie actions. There you'll be on the lookout for staff exchanges, doctoral networks, fellowships, and then the clusters, as you see there, will all either indicate whether the funding structure is a RIA, an IA, or a CSA, and same with the widening participation pillar. So just for you to make your life easier, if you do read a call, make sure that you identify what are the types of calls so that you know on how to focus on whether you actually, is that what you want to do? Do you want to go for a straight research? Do you want some coordination, some networking? So each and every call within these structures are specified. Just quickly, I did mention cost actions earlier on, so I just want to alert you to this. There is yet again a very new, strong drive from the EU to support cost actions in South Africa. Now, cost actions is an idea supported by the EU, but it is funded by our national entities. We in South Africa, due to very good collaborations from our head office, the DSI, and also the Brussels people, we are now the first cost international partner country, as you can see down there in the little green dot there. So the first partner country member, which means we can freely now apply to cost actions. So what is a cost action? It's a networking tool. You get to work on a very specific discipline of your choice, and you get to work with people all around the world. So you become part of a cost for a period of about 4 years. And for this, you get travel funds. And this is where the DSI comes in, supports you with travel funds. The application goes through our office. I will assist you with that. It's a fairly easy application process. It's a fantastic opportunity for young, emerging researchers to partake, to become involved in the bigger international collaborative structure. And that is also important. Once you're in a cost action network, you can use that network to actually apply to the bigger projects like the RIAs and the IAs and the CSAs. So it's a wonderful opportunity to get kick-started, to become connected internationally in terms of funding. So just bear that in mind. I did send this out 2-3 weeks ago, so there's lots of information. If you are on the listserv website, you'll lots of information that you'll pick up from there. Otherwise, you can contact me as well, and we can work on that and provide you with more information on that too. So as I've mentioned, there are many funding opportunities. I mean, just on Open for Research, we've got more than 11,000 funding opportunities. As I said, we've got institutional, national, international calls. All you need to do is contact us. So we're there to support you, to help you, and this is what we do. And in addition to this, I just want to mention to you that what we covered today was the first basics of what Horizon Europe is all about. So what I will cover tomorrow becomes a bit more intricate, and this is about how to approach and develop an Horizon Europe proposal. So I will take you through the basic concepts. I will show you the impact pathway. That's a very important factor now in all Horizon Europe applications. And show you how to approach this. I'll show you the templates. I'll show you how to apply and what you should do and not do. And it's very informative, and I would like to invite you, if you're interested in these types of calls, to also attend that tomorrow. If you can't attend tomorrow's session, don't worry. We can just ask Whitney to put your name on a list, and you can get the recordings. But other than that, as I said earlier on, from our team, Marlene, who heads our division or our group, there's also Venita, there's Dominic, there's Shannon, and there's me, and we're all there to support you and help you find funding. And that's it from now. So if there's anybody who's got questions now, I'll be pleased to address them. Thank you for the hands. So I don't see any questions or queries from your side. You do have my email address, so please feel free to contact me anytime, and we will really like to help you and support you. So there is so much to say about Horizon Europe, and so much that I can elaborate on, and especially after tomorrow's session, even more so. But I mean, we've got an hour, so And this is really just to bring this to your attention, to invite you to come and talk to us, speak to us. We'd like to help you find funding.